Thank you for coming, sir.
Yes.
I was expecting the noise.
Noise.
The siren and everything.
Can't I have a break even for a few hours from this sirens as well?
Now I see why you want to come back here now.
Yes. You can see this place is more friendly, isn't it, than Abuja?
Wow. So how much do you miss it when you are not here?
Well, very much so. That's why when I come, I keep my eyes very wide open, as if it was the first time I'm coming. This fruits bearing trees are growing very fast. Yes.
So you're counting the days now?
I am counting the days, not even the months.
What amazes me is that if you know him now, to me, is the same Buhari I knew, 1953. He's a good listener. He will accommodate you, listen to you, and he will never fight back.
If you are not hardworking, if you are not honest, if you are not dedicated to your duty, don't come near Mr. President Buhari. He has a very long face, but you have to catch up. He looks after the welfare of his staff, especially his close aides. He makes sure everything is well or is fine at home front, because he asks questions. That's how is everything going on? And whenever there's anything, he takes your problem as his own problem.
The ordinary people are his friends. And then Kaduna, you come and see them in his sitting room. They are not only in the sitting room, but they are on his dining table, eating with him.
There wasn't any day you go to Sultan Road #1 that you will not see people queuing, and that he will not attend to you.
When he goes to his farm, the only thing you will know that he is not with them is because of his white dress and height. He mingles with them. When we are going to the mosque, we enter the normal place where other people are and join the queue from where we find it. We don't overstay our queue. Normally, during Christmas or Salah, the father buys a dress for his children. And from 1996, when I started working with him, up to this year, he will buy me Salah dress. Every Salah. So along with his children. So I'll have my own children, my own Salah dress.
When my mom passed away, we were going to hold a commendation service for my mother in Lagos, and I just sent her some cards. I sent one to his house in Kaduna. Lo and behold, on the day an SUV just drove into the premises of the hall, and I went to welcome whoever was in it. When they opened the door and I saw him, I was shocked. So you could make it? He laughed. And he stayed with us throughout that service, a Christian service. A man they used to call a Muslim bigot. He stayed throughout that Christian service. It was one of the things that convinced me that the man was not who people were saying he was.
I first met him in 2007 because they were trying to meet pastors who could also, and not only pray along with them, but who could identify with him to remove the toga of Islamic fundamentalism, which he has been labeled with for too long a time. I saw him as a forthright person, an incorruptible leader, and one that was ready to bring about discipline to our society.
He's a very self-effacing person, also very witty, and humorous when he's comfortable in the environment he is. He can be surprisingly shy when he's not comfortable, he's amongst people who he's not accustomed to being around, and he can live in his own skin and say very little. But when he's comfortable, he can be a pot of good humor.
I got to know him from about 1976 when he was the Minister for Petroleum. And I was working in the presidency. You know, he has this expectation of people to take their responsibility seriously. He gives you an assignment, he expects you to carry it out.
Mr. President.
President Buhari, you walk into his office, see him reading, let's say, a memo. You not even notice you're there. He puts in his 100% on that memo until after he reaches the end of what he's reading. He does not even know somebody is there standing.
We first met January 1953. Buhari, as a child, was quiet, humble, and reserved.
There's one thing I also learned, that you lost your father very early. How was that growing up?
Yes, well, it was a difficult time. I didn't know my father, so I was an orphan, which means I didn't enjoy the protection of a father. I didn't know my father. And I went into a boarding school for 9 years. 3 of the primary school and 6 secondary school. Yes, I miss my parents. But I was lucky. We were a generation of lucky people.
His father passed away when he was 4 years old. His father had 3 wives. Muhammad was the youngest of 23. He had sort of surrogate fathers throughout his career, including within the military and including within the school system.
He was brought up by his senior brother, who was a teacher. He is one of our teachers. So he had a good home training under the care of his senior brother.
President Buhari is my uncle. I'm his nephew. My name is Muhammadu. His mother, Hajia Zuleihat Musa, is my grandmother. Her first child was my father. Her last child was Muhammadu Buhari. My father was his guardian, but it was tough for him, but tough for us also. Life was very tough in those days. You went to school in the morning, you came back and you go to the bush, collect firewood for the night reading. We had no lamps in those days. We used firewood to light, and we had slates, which we wrote chapters of the Quran and read. And so you have one chapter, you read it during the session, and then tomorrow morning you wash it, and another chapter or a piece thereof is written, and you learn it by heart.
So when I was away from home, I think I was constrained to behave myself because there was nobody to rescue me. So I was behaving myself. As I said, I became a class monitor, I became a junior prefect, I became senior prefect, I became a head boy.
You know, boys will be boys. You will transgress on occasions. You will be late for school, refuse to attend lessons sometime, go out to play, and that will be severely punished. Whoever did that will be punished. And the teachers were, I wouldn't say harsh, but they were disciplined. They taught us discipline. If you transgress, they lash you.
There was discipline in schools then. There's corporal punishment. And I think to a certain extent, it molded the minds of the children and so on and so forth.
Our generation was very lucky. Our teachers were absolutely committed and dedicated. And they treated us like their own children. If you do well, you are praised. You are brought before the classroom, your work was shown and you are praised. If you don't perform, you are again brought before the classroom, stripped and flogged on the buttocks. And there is no way I can forget school, because what we call the teacher I see there, called Mala Abdul, is a very strict person. And he doesn't spare the rod. We call it Bulala. Really. We don't like the rainy season approaching because we have to go to school farm. You wouldn't be late there, just like a classroom. And if you are late from 6 to 2, Bulalas on your buttocks. And you have to remove your shorts so that you get the message proper. Among the teachers, I could only again remember our Arabic teacher. No matter how hot it is, he comes in with a turban. And every week we are given to recite part of the Quran. Every week. And the only thing we can do with our body is to report sick if we haven't recited the part given that week. And so we report sick. But even if you report sick, then you are stopped from going to a breakfast break until you recite the verse you are given in the class.
I'm sure you didn't get too much Bilala because you were always like a leader in class.
You will be very surprised. I got a lot because I try to avoid going to the school farm. And if you miss it, you are not allowed to go on breakfast break. So you will have no break until the school is closed. But what I do between the first whistle and the last one, I go over the wall of the school, rush to home, and sometimes I'm eating up to the time I'm going to the classroom. And no one could forget those days. Trying to be clever by half.
How did a boy from Daura end up in Liverpool, straight out of secondary school?
I was picked from here, and then the whole of the north, again, I was the only person picked to go to UK, recommended to go to UK, Elder Dempster. Elder Dempster line. Were given some slots for children from each region, from the north, from the west, from the east then, and from Lagos. 4 of us were taken. And that's how I managed. You can see the system then. Here in Kaduna province, we are the junior part. In Daura here. But I was picked from the whole of the north to go to UK for holidays. That's when my father visited to the UK. And what struck me when we arrived at Liverpool, we went to the center of the Liverpool. Some of the cities in London, then there was a central roundabout in the town. From there, you can go to other places. And when we went down about break time, I saw people coming out. Everybody well dressed up, you know, just the way you are, but almost three-piece, handsome, healthy. And then I reflected a street back here in Katsina on my school days. When I'm going to the mosque on Fridays, blind men, cripples, leopards, people in rags, begging for what to eat. So I say, God, how can we understand? That impression is still there in me. You look at people coming out as if they made it up themselves. Very well dressed, handsome. Underdevelopment is terrible. That's the only thing I can say.
He was interested in science at the time. He was thinking of becoming a doctor. You know, he was born in 1942, you know, sort of the end of colonial era in Nigeria. They didn't really have a medical school yet at ABU. It turned out not to be a career path for him, although it was an interest. When he was finishing up secondary school, the Emir of Katsina, who was the neighboring Emir to Daura, was encouraging young, men from the north with leadership potential to go into the officers' training.
The Emir of Katsina then, he sent Hassan. It was no longer a profession for the poor. My height was a disadvantage to me. Then there were cadets only in government colleges. Zaria, Kepi in the north, I don't know how many in the south. The provincial secondary school, which was my school, they were not given army cadets. But the Emir of Katsina wanted to make a case to late Sardona that he wanted a cadet school, a cadet in his secondary school in the state. So the Sardona told the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister told the Minister of Defense. And then Katsina had a cadet, and then a retired ex-World War II veteran from Katsina was made to be in charge of the training. Just because of my height or something, I was picked to be the sergeant. So from there, I was impressed by the military discipline and so on. So when I left, I just went straight to the army.
And he was very attracted with the idea of uniform, discipline, and extracurricular activities like night exercise and drills that attracted him very much. And he was eventually, plus he had a few friends like Shehu Eradua, may God have mercy on him, and Jega, Emir of Gondu, and Magoro. They were his classmates, and they all started, so that the hard instinct also had an influence in his decision to join the army. And he has never regretted it since.
It must have been something for him. I mean, he went into the army to be a soldier. Then there was a political crisis, the coup and the counter-coup, then the civil war.
This is where the value of fighting for country comes in, because at every point of his military training, he was taught, you fight for your country, you die for your country, and you do it with honor. And so the idea of splitting the country it just sent shockwaves through these people. Even though they knew some of these counterpart officers on the other side, they never saw it Buhari never saw it as an Igbo thing, as an ethnic thing. He always saw it as the rebels and the attempt to split the country.
His battalion, the 2nd Battalion Nigerian Army, he was number 2 in the battalion. They were the first to fire shots. A battle in which they were advancing, and the opponents, the rebels, shot at them, and the fellow on his right was killed, the fellow on his left was killed. But he was unscathed. It was dreadful, dreadful. I was so afraid reading the dispatches to see the casualties, and I always pored over the casualties to see if his name was involved.
The Biafran Civil War was one where you didn't know you were going to survive. They were hacking their way through the rainforest, which was very different than the dry savanna in the north. And his men had to be sure to take health precautions, change their socks, not get fungus in their feet and things. So he was always concerned with the welfare of his men. I think even his critics would say this, that this was a young officer who took his leadership seriously.
And if I tell you that I walked across Nigeria from Benue State virtually up to the sea when we were fighting the Civil War, the 30 months of the Civil War, I was always in the front within the small arms range for the 30 months. I was never relieved. But when I was sent to India and the United States subsequently to do my training, people were saying, why always Buhari? But when I was being sentenced to the front, nobody asked, why didn't they bring me back to their headquarters where they have time to drink and dance? This is Nigeria.
There was a bloodless coup today in Nigeria, which is Black Africa's biggest and richest nation and the world's 8th largest oil producer. The overthrow of strongman Major General Yakubu Gowon.
Fellow Nigerians, events of the past few years have indicated that despite our great human and material resources.
So, how do you met the then Colin Buhari when he was governor of the Northeast?
Way back in the early 70s, or mid-70s, I was a young student, aged about 18, 19, and he was then governor of the Northeast. He was military governor of the Northeast, and I was a young student activist as the Secretary General of the Students' Union in the then Northeast College of Arts and Sciences. And when Murtala was killed, I led a delegation of students to protest the killing of Murtala, demanding that the coup plotters be brought to book and be tried. Well, he was quite a very serious-looking military officer, and my impression of him was that he was somebody that was destined for the future to become an effective leader in this country.
General Shehu Yaradua, may God bless him, may Allah have mercy on him, told me how Buhari was made Minister of Petroleum in Obasanjo's government. They set the group who were naming ministers and governors and so on, and they said, who is the most honest and the most serious among the officers of the Nigerian army, the one with the most integrity? And they honed in on Buhari. So they appointed him Minister of Petroleum, and they all thought he would not get his hands dirty with oil money.
Fraud, indiscipline, corruption, squandermania, misuse and abuse of public office for self or group aggrandizement, which had assumed debilitating proportions in the last few years, will be dealt with ruthlessly, no matter whoever may be involved.
It wasn't easy in the sense that
I noticed a lot of things were going wrong, personally. People were looking for office just to be materially endowed or empowered. I thought it was wrong. I think leadership is a sacrifice.
It was clear to the senior officers, including Buhari, that the junior officers were going to do something if they didn't. And the junior officers were taking their cue from next door in Ghana, where Jerry Rawlings had just taken over, a young flight lieutenant in the Air Force, and lined up and shot the previous senior military people who had been ruling the country. So the senior military people in Nigeria thought, we'd better stabilize the situation. We don't want another, Jerry Rawlings situation here.
Buhari was not terribly keen. He wasn't terribly keen about it, but there was nobody to lead the change of government, nobody with the credibility and the integrity to, to convince the country that a change was necessary. It wasn't his choice.
We need to emphasize self-discipline and leadership by good example. Begin by drawing public attention to little but important everyday manifestations of indiscipline, such as
try to impose discipline on the country. So it was a kind of a culture clash between military culture and the Nigerian grassroots culture, if I may say.
The night of the coup, you were with him, right?
I was in Lagos, and we had dinner, and then we talked until about 11 p.m. Then I went back to my digs. We had no idea, no inkling whatever, something was afoot. In the morning, one staff came and told me, look, there has been a change of government. Your uncle has been deposed. The coups in Nigeria have a history of being very violent and very bloody. So I pray to God that they don't kill him or injure him or something of that nature.
The people who know him well said he was aware, but the only way he could have prevented it was to execute 6 or 8 of the senior officers, and he wasn't willing to do this. I think he prevented a more serious situation, because when you start killing officers, who knows where it's going to lead. Now he's down in Benin. He's under house arrest. He's living in a cottage with guards. He figured that if Babangida wanted to kill him, he would be dead by now. So it was really a question of just marking time and using it to realize, well, this is the end of his military career, and it was possible for people to visit him, but only with the permission of General Babangida, who is now in charge.
He was detained for 3.5 years. I went to see him regularly every month in Akure and in Benin. Very restrictive, and it's very boring, and he didn't know what eventually the government would do with him, and he was only released on the death of his mother. But throughout, I think his spirit never for a moment broke, because so many people gave me messages to tell him to say, please write to Babangida and tell him, since he has taken over, let him go. He said, no, I'll never write to him. I'll never talk to him. His spirit never broke throughout the 3.5 years.
Even though Jonathan Abacha was part of the military elite that toppled his government, out of patriotism, to save the government, he accepted to serve as the chairman against the advice of many of his close associates, he said, no, it is not about Abacha, it is not about toppling of the government, it is about the country. We need to save this country, we need the infrastructure has decayed. So he accepted the chairman, and quickly he assembled some professionals, largely young men, and we went into work.
If you go down even to our hospitals to check, we see, if you see linens that are curtains, you know, shielding the beds, besides the few procurements, you will see PTF inscribed. If you see the roads today and you go through from north to south, there hasn't been any corner you will go through without seeing the project of the PTF. If you see hospitals with equipments, basically even in the theaters today, you will see that you will have the little, you know, inscription of the PTF.
Nearly every week, some delegation from different parts of Nigeria were coming to see us in Kaduna, saying, look, you have to come and take care of have to come and lead this government. We're drifting. We're going back to the 1983 period. And he resisted this for a long time until both political parties sent emissaries to tell him that if he wanted, they will give him the ticket to run for the presidency. He succumbed to the pressure.
On Thursday, 26th of April, 2002, we went to Daura, where he registered as a card-carrying member of the then APP, which is the second largest party after PDP at that time. I think it was 1,145,359. Yeah, that was his number in the APP.
I received a phone call, and they said I should help them look for a vice presidential candidate. That's Christians from the South. We couldn't make any headway, and we decided to lay down. Until January 15 at 12 noon, I received a phone call from the general. He said, I prayed my own way, and I want you to pray. I would like you to be my running mate. My first response was, thanks, but no thanks, sir, because I'm heading a group, and I've given them my word that I will neither join partisan politics or seek an elective office. But even within the group, they said, you have been positioning us for this. We are now saying you must take this. Long story cut short, by the time I called, Pastor Adeboye called everyone, contacted this and that, the rest is history. I had to team up with him to become his running mate. And it was such an experience that I cannot forget.
Character, credibility, competence, integrity, those are the issues. And by the grace of God, 2011, we will have a new president.
All the three elections were rigged, massively rigged. Let me give you an example. 2007, after our lawyer made his submission to the Supreme Court, I went to his office and I asked for the results of just one of the states. He gave me results of Imo State. I went over carefully over the results, and then they just say, PDP, that's Umar Yaradua, 25,000. Buhari 5,000. Round figures throughout, round figures. The winner of the election, Umar Yar'Adua, himself said the elections were faulty, if you recall. After you know you won in 2003, rigged. You know you won in 2007, rigged. You know you won in 2011, changed, rigged. What will you do?
Is the third and last one for me, since after it, I will not present myself again for election into the office of the president.
So he didn't break down in tears. He just broke down in pity for the system, for the country, and he said, I'll never do it again, never do it again.
So when this thing happened in 2011, it was worse than what had happened in 2007. It was worse than what had happened in 2003. So it is this thing, it is not the bitterness that he lost that worried him. And then he said, well, it will appear now nothing is going to change this thing. It's like, well, it's a country of over 150 million. I have tried my best. I have made my own contribution. My contribution is not recognized, and surely it's better to keep off from this.
This is his eldest daughter, Magajia. She suffered all her life with sickle cell disease, and then a confluence of events. A few days with the announcement, she also died. So that shook him very much. But I would say that the death of his daughter shook him more than the loss of the election.
That is what they call sickle cell anemia. There are people who are SA, there are people who are SS. So I think when the developed countries found about this sickle cell disease, they tried to stop marriage between AS OSS, so that they don't have this sickle cell anemia. My first wife, my late first wife, unfortunately, I think she is SA or AS, and I'm AS. So my two children, my first daughter and my first son, happened to be SSS, and they died of it. It was hard, but when I gave to my second wife, I asked who introduced her to me that she must be AA, so that if my child picked the S from me, he could only pick S from A from her. So AS is not normally susceptible to the anemia.
So in 2013-2014, you decided to team up with the other opposition parties. How did that come about?
The PDP. We are so confident that nobody could remove them. And I think they just ignored even being careful. So we persuaded the other parties. The CPC, Congress for Progressive Change, which I was leading, the ACN from Southwest mostly, ABGA from Southeast geopolitical zones. I said, until we came together, there was no way we could remove PDP. I persuaded them, they agreed. Aswaju, Tinubu, from the North One from CPC, this was myself, and then from the southeast, Abga, Okorocha. So we got people from various parties to come together.
Now you had a strong opposition party, but you almost got killed before the election.
I think Kwankwaso was very generous. He gave me an armored vehicle, a Land Rover. He said I should be using it because he believed that the competition I am going on, I think there are people who really wouldn't like to compete with me. They would like to eliminate me. I said, okay. So I had to go to Kano, and I was using that Jeep. And a vehicle near the secretariat, federal secretariat in Kaduna, wanted to overtake us. My escort stopped them. But before we go on that overhead bridge, which was parallel to our filling station on the right as you are leaving Kaduna for Zaria, they just below the thing. And when I looked, I saw the pieces of human beings. People who are being blasted by the bomb. The chap who we were traveling with in the car on my left was thrown on my left because the bag, you know, the crash bag, which is the vehicle have, some of them, the one on my side was blown. The one on his side, I think, was not blown, so he was thrown on my left. And when I looked, I saw blood on my trousers and on my gown, but none of us, the two people in the vehicle and two of us behind, four of us, none of us were injured. But somehow I saw blood because of the number of people killed outside and was blood of the bomb. And I came out, I was concerned with the dead people, but some people stopped our vehicle, pushed me inside and drove me home. And that was the end of it. This is how efficient the Nigerian security agents are up to today.
It is now my pleasure to hand over the certificate of return as prepared by the National Convention Planning Committee to the winner of the All Progressives Congress presidential primary, General Muhammadu Buhari, retired.
Throughout the campaigns, and we went around in buses a lot, you know. We traveled from state to state, you know. I recall in particular, we were at I think it was in Zamfara, where we saw these young people, and this always happened, of course, pressing themselves against the window of the bus that were traveling, you know, shouting, say Baba, you know, Baba or Yo-Yo and all of that. And he said, look at the faces of these young people. He says the expectations are high, very, very high. He says, and they expect us to do magic the moment we get into office. You know, look at all of them.
Here in Kaduna, we voted for General Muhammadu Buhari, not because he's a northerner or a Muslim, but because we believe he's going to bring change. He's going to stop the insecurity, the corruption, and the callousness and the impunity.
That Muhammadu Buhari of APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law and scored the highest number of votes, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
I, Muhammadu Buhari, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will preserve...
Well, don't forget that I tried 3 times. 2003, I think 2007, and 2011. And I ended up in Supreme Court 3 times. The first time, I went to address the pressmen and some Nigerians that were very curious. I was expecting sympathy, but the group laughed at me. So I said, okay, God day. And God sent technology. With permanent voters card, PVC, it's very difficult, to do what politicians used to do in Nigeria.
Well, some of us will claim credit to the fact that we are popular, but key is the character of our candidate. First, his character was essential to salvage the country. The country was in so much crisis, financially, security-wise, in every ramification.
This is the victory that is completely due to the support of the people. The normal elites, those who normally decide things, were all against this movement, and it came to victory. And I knew the country needed Buhari, and it has got it now. It is one of the best moments in my life. I didn't know I was going to be part of the government, but the fact that Buhari has won was just enough for me as a cause for happiness for this nation.
I remember that very, very day when the announcement was made. He from his office in the view to upstairs, he came down to my office, and I look at him, he was looking in the ceiling in very pensive mood. After some 1 or 2 minutes, I said, I would not like to congratulate you. I would rather pity you. He said, thank you. Thank you. So we went out, back to his office.
He is a man of inflexible integrity. He is also a very simple man, a very religious man, and also dedicated to Nigeria. If he has political views, is that Nigeria together is the best for all the peoples.
He's a man of his words. He's a man of honor. He's a man of courage. He's a man of uprightness. He's a no-nonsense man. He has never, for once that I know him, done anything that will advance his selfish interest, either for himself as a person, for friends, for family.
He believes in the ultimate goodness of each and every Nigerian, including those of us who work with him. Yes, he will discuss challenges with you, but ultimately he always believes that you will do the right thing.
Muhammadu Buhari listens a lot. He is not too much in a hurry to take decisions, and he is also very considerate. So Nigeria is a very complex place. You need to take measured decisions because every decision you take will impact on the lives of people. So, but he is a very, very thorough leader. There are so many adjectives you can use to describe Buhari, but truly, he is a leader whose time has come, and he has led this country very, very well. Under no circumstances, the leader will probably be sending his people or be asking you to do this for him. Buhari has never sent anybody to me in the last 7 years to do anything for him or for the person.
I have had the privilege of serving 7 Nigerian presidents in my public career. The styles of leadership are different, the circumstances are different, but as a boss, he gives you the resources to do your work. You can say anything about him or his policies, but nobody doubts his integrity, his commitment to ensure that public resources are very well managed, and that he cares about all parts of the country, including those that may not have voted for him, conspicuously not voted for him in several elections that he has undergone in this country.
His driver took me from his house to go to Governor El-Rufai's house. And when we got to El-Rufai's house in Kaduna, his driver said, "Daddy," he was referring to me, "I'd like you to pray with me." I said, "I beg your pardon." He said, "I call you Daddy." I said, "I do not pray the Muslim prayer. I can only pray for you as a Christian." He said, "I'm a Christian. I'm a member of Ekwa Church and I'm born again. I've been driving him for 10 years. This is the third or so electoral process that I've driven him." I said, "You are a Christian?" He said, "Yes." I prayed with him. That was very shocking to me. Second thing that I received as a shocker, a serious shock, we did the first flag off in Kaduna. It was such a mammoth crowd. And if anyone we pushed that day, there would be a serious stampede. And then after the flag off, we got to his home, and he staggered. And he said, "Jesus Christ of Nazareth." I said, "Excuse me, sir?" Because I would have said, "Is that a swear word?" And he looked at me and said, "Pastor, you don't have monopoly of Jesus Christ." I said, "Okay." I calmed down, I left it. Then we were in Abuja. And early morning I was going to his hotel apartment, Presidential Street, at Transcorp Hilton, and I met his bodyguards at the door. And one of them said, "Good morning, sir." "Good morning, Daddy." I said, "Why do you call me Daddy?" He said, "You are our grandfather, actually, because our pastor is your son in the faith. We go to Lighthouse." And I said, what kind of a man is this? Never at once try to hinder my faith or to try to say, to be irritated by me. And all around him, a cook and this and that were Christians.
So how do you cope with Abuja if Daura is noisy sometimes?
No, Abuja, I'm effectively protected by security and COVID-19. You see? Security wouldn't allow people to be seeing me. They said because of COVID. So I am thanking the security and COVID.
Where do you find the energy? You'll be 80 in December.
Yes.
You walked from the mosque today. Mm-hmm. You walked almost an hour now. So where do you find this energy? I mean, I'm younger and I'm tired.
Yes. If you were a village man like me, I think you would have been stronger.
There's a crazy one that was going around at one time that you are not Buhari. Did you hear about that one?
Yes, people said I'm somebody from Sudan. They even mentioned the name. I didn't bother. Nigerians, when they don't understand things, they create their own mysterious way of explaining themselves.
Does it help that you have your sense of humor to find those things funny?
No, it's not funny because those who are advocating or who are making those statements, they just want to be cheeky. They want to distract attention from the main issue. Our main issue is do the infrastructure, make people aware that they need to work hard to live well. They just can't, enjoy life without earning the respect of their communities and so on.
After you leave the presidency,
yes,
what are you going to miss the most about the presidency?
I wonder if I'm going to miss much. I think I'm being harassed. I believe myself that I'm trying my best, but still my best is not good enough because there are people around that think that they can intimidate authorities to get what they want, instead of going through established systems, and earn whatever they want to earn. There are still people who want to, who are clever by half, let me put it that way.
When I left secondary school, I came back here. This is my base. Coup, counter-coup, civil war, coup, counter-coup, detention. I have gone through it all. I have tried hard enough. I think I have tried hard enough. The results are obvious, and I'm praying very hard that I will end up well.